even bother. Like, I really just don't even know why I bother at this point right now. Because I went into this week not even expecting anything. But yet, in Kirk Cousins' return game as an Atlanta Falcons quarterback against the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings doubled our points. We lost 42-21. And Kirk Cousins threw another 2 picks. And I want to get this straight out here. It wasn't the receiver's fault. Both the picks were Kirk Cousins' fault. The first one, I don't know how he didn't see the guy right there. And the second one, he's throwing as he's about to get hit, but he still overthrows Kyle Pitts, who we're going to get on to later. And I want to say this right now. Kirk Cousins is very lucky to not have a third. Because the pass they threw to Drake London that should have been picked, but Drake London fought it out of the other guy's hand, the cornerback's hand, was very lucky to not be called an interception. So really, Kirk Cousins possibly has 3 interceptions, and considering how bad he was last week, throwing 2 picks and 0 touchdowns, it just doesn't help your case. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna talk about this when it gets to end the video before I get into anything. I just don't know. Because I've already stated my opinion about the whole Falcons situation, where my opinion states. I did not want Kirk Cousins. Straight on to the simple fact. But let's get into the stats. Let's start with the opposing team real quick. Sam Darnold was 22 for 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's self-explanatory right there. Sam Darnold, who was considered to be a draft bust after getting drafted by the Jets, then released, then signed to a new team as a backup, and now he started for Minnesota, and he lit us up for 5 touchdowns, over 340 yards. What are we paying AJ Terrell for? I don't know. What are we paying AJ Terrell for? Because I get into the receivers. I'm not talking about the running backs. Forget the running backs. Jordan Addison, the second wide receiver, and keep in mind, a lot of star wide receivers tend to go off against Atlanta, but the second wide receiver went off. He had 8 catches, 133, 3 touchdowns. And let's not forget the star wide receiver. Let's not forget JJ, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Justin Jefferson had 7 catches, 132 for 2 touchdowns. He missed beating out Jordan Addison in yards by 2 yards. And he had 1 less catch. And then TJ Hawkinson, who's just starting to come back in his form, even had 4 catches, 45 yards. And the only other touchdown that came from the Vikings was a run from Aaron Jones. When it came to Kirk Cousins threw for 37 times. 37 times! And that is due down to what? Us being behind so much. We shouldn't have to have Kirk Cousins throwing so much. And I'm going to get into this next off when we talk about the running backs. But let's finish up with Kirk Cousins. 22 for 37, 344 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. What's the one thing that jumps out you right there? 0 touchdowns. He didn't have 1 single throwing touchdown. He had over 344 yards. No touchdowns. What does that get you? When you're throwing for that many yards and throwing 2 picks and getting no touchdowns, what does that tell you? You played okay game, but you're playing from behind. So that was obvious you were going to get that amount of yards if you're playing from behind, which you shouldn't be. The running backs. 22 carries by Bijan Robinson. I'm going to get into the simple point of this right here. The Falcons need to start learning from the Lions. I don't care if we can't do it as well as the Lions. They need to start learning from the Lions and splitting their carries. Because we have that type of system in our team. Bijan is the Jahmyr Gibbs of our team. And we have David Montgomery and Tyler Algier, who's a power back, who's good for that 1-yard rushing touchdown, who can get the power and go into the end zone. And that's the way we need to start running this team. Splitting the carries better. We saw what Tyler Algier did with less carries. He had 9 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. He was the first one to get a touchdown. He was the first person to score. Bijan had 22 carries, 92 yards, 1 touchdown. 22 carries. You see the 92 yards and touchdown, you're like, oh yeah, Bijan did a very good game. But for 22 carries, you would expect Bijan to get a lot more yardage. Nope. Then we get into receivers. And I'm going to get into a certain player and talk about his game. Darnell Mooney, 6 catches, 142 out of 7 targets. So he basically caught every ball that was thrown to him by Kirk Cousins. Ray McLeod, 8 catches, his season high, 98 yards, 11 targets. So he missed out on three balls that he did not catch from Kirk Cousins. Drake London, our top wide receiver. Our top wide receiver just can't catch the ball. 5 catches. He had 70 yards, but he had 10 targets. And then this is the one I want to talk about because this one hurts me the most because he is a Florida Gator. He comes from the University of Florida. He was a top 5 pick in 2021. Yes, we're talking about Kyle freaking Pitts. I was happy when the Atlanta Falcons got Kyle Pitts. But ever since that first season after Matt Ryan, it just hasn't worked out. He doesn't seem like he wants to be there. And when it comes to the offseason, I actually kind of hope that we do at least get a second or a third rounder for Kyle Pitts if we do happen to trade him. Get a tight end that wants to play. Kyle Pitts had 1 catch for 14 yards, and that 1 catch did not come until the 4th quarter with 7 minutes remaining. And he had 6 targets. 1 target Kirk Cousins overthrew, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But what happened to the other 5? What happened to the other 4? This team does not surprise me. I went into the season looking good. I look back at my Gators prediction, the Florida Gators prediction. I got that spot on. I forgot what I did for the Falcons. I'm going to go back into this, and in my next Falcons review, I'm going to talk about that because there's a possibility I could get my Falcons prediction correct. I believe I had the Falcons finishing I'd probably say 9-8 or 10-7. We're 6 wins right now, and we got 4 games remaining. We can get to 10-7, but it's going to take some things to happen. Because here's what I want the Falcons to do for the next 2 games. Our next 2 games are against teams that just got eliminated from playoff contentions. We played the Las Vegas Raiders at the Las Vegas Raiders, and then we play the New York Football Giants who are both 2-11. Desmond Ridder is a possible starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders next week. And you know what I would love to see? I would love for us to start Michael Penix Jr. against the guy that we thought was going to be our future into the guy that we think is going to be our future again. I want to see how he does against the Las Vegas Raiders team. And the one reason I want to see this why is the records. Las Vegas has nothing to play for. Giants have nothing to play for. They're playing for the number 1 draft pick. They're trying to lose to get the number 1 draft pick, really. So I wouldn't mind benching Kirk Cousins for 1 game, possibly 2, and seeing how Michael Penix Jr., if Michael Penix Jr. is playing badly, coming towards halftime, put in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, with a half rested, can come into the game fresh and start lining up and helping us beat the Raiders and then beating the Giants, if possible. Because if there's a damn sure chance that the Falcons lose one of these next 2 games, cap the season. Cap the season. The next 2 teams we play are both 2-11. Both 2-11. They combine 4 wins. 3 of the teams that we're playing for the rest of the 4 games combine for 7 wins. The only good team that we're playing is the Washington Commanders. And I can tell you this. I know we're going to lose that game. I know that. So, as it currently stands right now, the Falcons are 6-7. I see the Falcons winning the next 2 games. And you know what that brings us to? That would bring us to 8-7. 8-7 with 2 games remaining. Beating the Commanders? Probably not going to happen, but we'll see. But let's say the Falcons lose. That will bring us to 8-8. And that heads down to the last game of the season. And keep in mind, the last game of the season is against Bryce Young and Carolina Panthers, who at this point right now just got eliminated from playoff contention. I actually think there's... No, wait. Actually, I'm not even sure about this. I'm not even sure they're eliminated because, they're only like 3... They're 3 or 4 games back from the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 7-6? The Panthers are only 4 games back. The Panthers can technically still go out and win this division. So at this point right now, I would assume Carolina to be eliminated, but Carolina is still going to play tough because they're division rivals. And the last 2 times we played our division rivals, the Saints beat us, and we nearly lost against Tampa Bay, and they had to go to overtime. I really just don't understand what's going on with the Falcons. I really don't. The Falcons were odds-on favorite to win the division. We're second to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay doesn't even have one of their best wide receivers. Their defense is so crap. Their defense is one of the worst defenses. But they have Baker Mayfield quarterback. And at this point right now, I'll probably put Baker Mayfield as the best quarterback in the NFC South. You heard me say it. Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in the NFC South. He's playing like it. Kirk Cousins isn't. Baker Mayfield threw, 3 touchdowns yesterday? Kirk Cousins threw 2 picks. Possibly 3. I just really just don't know what to say at this point right now. If the Falcons stick with Kirk Cousins, he has to win these next 2 games. If he loses one of these next 2 games, start Michael Penix Jr., see how he does to end the season, and then Kirk Cousins can come back refreshed for next year because he's going to play next year. He has to. This GM, I'm going to get into this separate video talking about the GM, but it may be finally like a discussion for us possibly talking about firing this GM because paying Kirk Cousins the amount of money that he has, the beginning of the season worked out well, but it just hasn't looked good since. And for the amount of money that we're paying Kirk Cousins, we could have built this team a lot more. We had 4 sacks today. I'll give the Falcons pass rush. We have 4 sacks today, but we're still last in pressure on the quarterback, and that just needs to change. And with the amount of money that we're paying Kirk Cousins, we just paid AJ Terrell. We're not going to have money to go out there and get a significant pass rusher unless we go out there in the draft. And looking at the last 4 years in the draft, that just hasn't happened when we've had premier pass rushers on the board. Jared Verse could have got him. We ended up getting Michael Penix Jr. So it remains to be seen, but hey, this is what the Falcons are. We're just hot and cold, and right now we're just in the cold weather.